Hello humans, hello humans. Wednesday, December 10, 8:39 a.m., 2025. A little talk here about preposition and preposition. Two different things. Same word, slightly different usage. So, big storms here last night. The solar storming, the solar eruption storming hit the planet, and it caused a lot of storming here last night. So need a nap, all of that kind of stuff. But we're also getting storming going through humanity, and everybody should more or less recognize that at this point, that there's forces being exhibited within us that are greater than us as individuals and are flowing through the humanity as a whole at a collective level. Some of these will be coming up to the forefront. My linguistic sense is picking up panic in officialdom, panic language, early panic language, but very deep. And I'm also picking up clues and cues from activities within officialdom. And so this is where we come up to preposition versus preposition. So I think officialdom is prepositioning themselves to try and retain control when some event manifests. I don't have a clear understanding of the event. I'm not running a complete linguistic analysis suite anymore. Lots of different reasons, some of it having to do with bandwidth. But the little hints I get are pointing to something quite spectacular. Species changing, basically aliens. So I think they're prepositioning themselves ahead of some event involving aliens. Not necessarily the appearance of them, but they've got some big problems that are showing up all around the planet, and the same language is being reflected, and the moves these people are making are showing me that they're anticipating something, and they're trying to get ahead of it to some degree. The language around what they're doing and everything, and the way in which that language is being presented, shows me that they don't have a whole lot of confidence that they will be able to succeed in getting ahead of and controlling whatever's going to happen. They're very much afraid. So we are getting panic. It's at a couple of different levels. There's many signs of it throughout officialdom in the USA, officialdom in Israel, officialdom in the Vatican, to a minor degree, officialdom throughout all of Europe. And so there's, this is a very widespread level of panic within the ruling classes. Okay, it's visible though. Now, that prepositioning is brought to mind by this documentary, Age of Disclosure. Heidi got the documentary, and she's watched at least some part of it, and her conclusion is that it's all bogus and it's all fake, and but she's now has an opinion that she's 5% in the category that aliens could be real, that all this shit could be real. All right, so the prepositioning on the part of officialdom has worked with Heidi, okay, because she was 0% before she started seeing the documentary. All right, I haven't seen the documentary. I read a transcript of chunks of it very rapidly to determine that I didn't want to see it, that there's nothing new there for me. I knew all of this stuff, right? So that was not an issue for me. And I also did come to the understanding that there is some lying going on. When you read the transcript, there's language disharmony out of single individuals, that sort of thing. Anyway, though, the documentary at least achieved its goal, at least part of a goal, with Heidi as a viewer. All right, so she's a little bit more convinced that this stuff is real. I think she's convinced that these people are that they think it's real, however much they may be hiding or not revealing stuff. So that gives her that increased a little bit level of confidence that the whole subject is not bullshit. Anyway, so I think this is part of the prepositioning. The government's doing many prepositioning things all about aliens, and it's all happening now, and it's starting to combine. Age of Disclosure combines with, Three-Eye Atlas bullshit, which, and increased drone activity and increased mainstream news talking about all this kind of stuff, yada, 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 and it keeps combining and building. And you're starting to see more of it in a lot of the social media that I never watch, okay? So I don't watch any of these things, but a lot of people are telling me that it's, spreading quite fast throughout Instagram and TikTok and all these kind of things, right? I don't have a TikTok account. I don't do anything there, but apparently there's a large amount of UFO videos and this kind of thing presented. Also, a lot of fakes. It's just not worth my time to try and discriminate which is which. And also, I'm not interested in the format. Anyway, though, so the prepositioning on the part of the powers that be has worked, right? So they've got Heidi 5% in their camp. 5% that this bullshit could be real. Now, there are other things that are going on relative to the powers that be. And here's the big issue on this, all right? One of the big issues. So the languages convince me that they know that there's an event coming of some form. I'm convinced because of their actions that they think it's going to be some form of a revealing, right? Not a disclosure, but a revealing. Oh, and I don't know what the revealing is about. It could be a revealing about all the crimes that have been committed by all of these corporations and all of that kind of stuff, hiding all of the advanced technology. It could be a revealing about space aliens. No way to know it. There's conflicting language throughout the internet that would seem to indicate about a 50-50 chance on either. Not that chance exists. We have about a balanced language approach in terms of prescient language to cover either of these, neither of them being dominant at this point. But together, they're quite compelling. And the government has officialdom has some serious level of apprehension. I say officialdom because it's out of the hands of government and it's into private industry now, and lots of religious guys are getting involved. Lots and lots and lots of rabbis are involved in this, and the rabbis have a higher level of panic in their language than the general officialdom surrounding them. So I think the rabbis know more. Hang on. That was a call about one of my many projects. I've got a lot of, Heidi and I both have projects coming up in 2026. So I think it's going to be kind of cool. Some of these are taking a while to get together. So anyway, where was I? Okay, so these guys are prepositioning themselves. The prepositioning is working. I'm assuming it's working on a lot of the people that do rent the movie to a greater degree than Heidi, right? So it's going to be probably very successful that way. Then you have to ask, why now? What are they anticipating that they're putting this amount of effort, or at least reducing the amount of security or effort they put into the security and the hiding of all of this? So I think that they know that there's going to be some level of a revealing on some aspect of it. Because of the language on a lot of people now that's being picked up and recirculated, I think that one of the goals is to bring it all out in such a way that there are acknowledgments of crimes, and that's just left at that level, and then there's going to be some kind of a blanket amnesty that covers people within this as long as they do, X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. I think that's one of the goals. That's not the goal, though. So I think they need to do that in order to feel better about what they're going to have to do later as part of the revealing. So I don't think that's the revealing. I think it's simply a step along the way, given the language. All right, so we have a panic in officialdom now. I think it's within the next 18 months, okay? The kind of language indicators I've got in terms of the emotionality and the emotion levels and the flow of the emotion through the language, even in short durations here, seems to indicate we might be looking at something within the next 18 months that would fit with all of the rumors and such about 2027 within the UFO community, right? Now, I also see language in the out and about within this pre-positioning set that is going to cause problems or indicates one problem that they're worried about, okay? One of the problems they're worried about is typified by Israel. So Israel right now is spending a lot of money to get 1,000 USA influencers and pastors and preachers over to Israel to become rah, Israel first kind of people. They're paying for all of this. They're putting them on, treating them lush and the whole deal, right? And their goal, though, the Israeli goal, is to have 100,000 such Christian influencers backing them up here in the United States. And then the next goal that they have, I guess, is to set up some form of funding to take active legal measures against people that would criticize Israel at any level. So that's coming as well. That's part of their ultimate control system. However, none of that's really going to work. They know they're running. There's indications in the language that they realize they're running behind and that they'll never meet their goals ahead of whatever this event or revealing is. The problem is, for officialdom, at a huge level, that the appearance of space aliens basically drives a nail in the coffin of the last prophet of Yahweh, this last prophet of the Elohim. Whoever is out there prophesying about the Elohim, Bo Polney's doing that now. He's not a Christian in my opinion. He doesn't really get into the words of Christ. He's always talking about this Old Testament and the Elohim, these ancient gods of the Jews that pretended to be, or the space aliens that pretended to be the gods of the Jews, pretended to be gods and conquered the Jews. Anyway, I shouldn't get into it, but anyway, the Bible tells you this, right? It tells you, if you read the Bible, that there were at least 600 Elohim, and that 200 of them were on the Sky Council, and that the head of the Sky Council was a dude that was Elyon, that was his name. And Yahweh was like a colonel in that council. He wasn't even a big dude. He wasn't even a head Elohim. Anyway, so I think these guys, the officialdom, are worried about the effects of the announcement of aliens, or the idea of aliens coming out, on the origin story for the Jews. The reason that they're very worried about this is because that origin story is the underpinning for the entire Jewish cachet, and it's going to really erode any erode their influence seriously, right? They're no longer going to be the chosen ones. They're going to be the deluded ones that thought they were chosen by space aliens. And so, it's an entirely different flavor of an understanding. And so globally, they don't want that. The Israelis are really freaking out about that. There's also some consternation about this in the Vatican, because the Vatican is also, in their understanding and their promotion of Christianity, they're 100% dependent upon the Old Testament and the Jews, etc. They need that story to be at least ambiguous enough that they can sell you on the idea, right? So if space aliens show up, then everybody's going to know. And then the space aliens say, oh, yeah, we know the Elohim. They live over there. Bunch of fucktards. Anyway, so it's going to cause some problems. It causes problems for a lot of stuff. At the same time that we're getting exposure on Jewish criminal gangs, Jewish Jewish paying for mass migration and all of this kind of stuff, right? That's all basically a giant Jewish cartel that's trying to control the planet through all of these various different means. At the same time that we get the banking structure under such great stress that we have to convert to another financial system. And so you see that the government, the officialdom is trying to pre-position itself ahead of all of these problems. Regardless of the religious implications, the crash of the banking system and stuff, the degradation of fiat currencies to the point of worthlessness, as we're seeing with the continuing rise in the price of precious metals in those fiat currencies, is putting huge pressures on the system that allow the ruling elite to rule. And so we're going to see reactions from the ruling elite on all of this. And one of the things that they appear to be preparing for is something that they don't appear to be able to control. So there's so many areas of the social order that are in degradation at the moment, it's hard to say what that could be, right? So realistically, they might greatly fear civil war, right? Erupting in Europe, and they might fear it erupting in the United States, where we basically have a religious war and invaders, right? Any kind of an immigrant, that sort of thing. They would very much fear that. However, none of the language that they're coming out with now indicates that that is any part of their fear. They have very great control fear issues with the population. That's quite clear, but it doesn't seem to be coming from that level of an understanding of their position. So it would really seem from the linguistic aspects that whatever this revealing is over the next 18 months is going to affect a linchpin of their control system, whatever it may be, banking or whatever. I think it'll do so because it will affect because of the language indicating the fears of the Israelis and this kind of stuff. I think it will be something that will impact religion at a very deep level. And so as part of the paradigm shift, that's going to happen anyway. I would not have expected it to happen this early because of the paradigm shift itself. The paradigm shift being into consciousness-based substrate science as opposed to grit-based substrate science. And the huge implications for that all the way through. Anyway, so not to get diverted. The language on this is still building. We have events still building. 3i Atlas is still 9 days away from closest approach to Earth. And we still don't know what the hell it's going to do when it connects with Jupiter next May 16th, or is it March? One of the two. Anyway, so there are all these kind of potentially space alien connected events. And I think 3i Atlas is clearly not a comet. You'd have to be an idiot to consider that it's a natural rock. Especially, you'd have to be an idiot. I won't go into any of the details there. So, I think the officialdom may be freaking out about the idea that aliens are going to be appearing in some form, whether it's just simply language about them and having to acknowledge crimes about the reverse engineering of or whether it's actually aliens. It would seem to me, I don't want to suggest that, but it would seem to me that the level of language I'm seeing, the level of the panic words that are creeping out are indicating that it would be much more likely that it's going to be real aliens. A lot of people are going to be afraid of losing their jobs or their freedom or their lives because of the crimes they've committed, but that doesn't appear to be driving what's in the language now. Much more as though there was going to be actual aliens showing up and the officialdom is going to have to deal with them and has no fucking clue, right? So anyway, interesting times that way. Now the effect on religious crowd is going to be interesting as well, because the first time that we get admission that, there's space aliens out there, that means that the Bible story itself of the Elohim, which is what it's a plural word in the Jewish Torah, which we translate as the Old Testament. So their idea of the Jews being chosen by God, because they were simply chosen by space aliens, the whole thing starts crumbling from there. So I think this is going to be, so basically on the preposition aspect of it, I think Bo Polney, this prophet of Yahweh, all about money, I think he's sort of right. I think that, but he's 100% wrong. First off, all of the Bible stuff that he references is all past. It's all happened. It's all ancient news, right? It's not. So is Yahweh God so stupid that he's got to run the same patterns and cycles over and over and over and over and over again? That's what it appears. Why should we be living in Daniel's timeline or whatever the fuck he's saying? Anyway, though, but he was off by a preposition. And he says there's going to be a great and terrible day of the Lord, right? Of his Lord Yahweh. Not Jesus, not God, Yahweh. Anyway, so he says there's going to be this great and terrible day of the Lord. And I think there's going to be, for all of the religious guys, a great and terrible day for the Lord, for their Lord, right? As the space aliens come on out. It's going to really destroy the understanding of people relative to Christianity. And that's going to be a big fucking deal here in the United States. Well, all around the planet, but it's going to be a big fucking deal all the way through. I won't go into the potential and damage on the various religions, but it's going to be quite severe. And this is one of those moments of destiny, right? That you just have to go through. It's a process, and humanity's in this paradigm shift. We're going to go through it, can't deny it, can't go back, and we just have to understand where we are and what's going to be happening. But the revealing part of it, the thing they're fearing, I think is less than 18 months out. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think it, relates to the space aliens and all of that, that certainly they are pre-positioning for something. And they don't do this, they don't put the energy into this kind of shit, for just grins and chuckles. This is how they do things. This is serious stuff. They put money behind it and make people do odd things as they need to ahead of what they think is going to appear. Anyway, guys, take care. It's Wednesday, and we'll see. But prepositioning is ongoing. There's very little doubt of that in my mind.